What is going on, Pats Nation? It's Patriots Global here, back with another video. And in this one, I want to talk about, technically for us at least, the first day of Patriots offseason programs. And what I mean by technically the first day for us is that the media was finally present in the Patriots offseason programs. Now, the Patriots already had a few other OTA sessions, I believe, and they also, of course, did have rookie minicamp, none of which were open to the public. Now, some OTA sessions will be open to the public, like one today. Minicamp, not rookie minicamp, but regular minicamp, that will be open to the public also. And then, of course, training camp down the road, that will be open to the media also. We just do not know the dates of training camp at this current time. Up until this point, up until today, the first day open to the media for these offseason programs for 2021, we haven't really heard anything. Of course, news reporters have been there, so, New England wasn't going to just come out and say, hey, here's the notes of today. That was kind of closed off. There was no videos. There were some pictures of the guys, of course, but you can't get any notes. Any speculation of how these guys are doing and what's happening, in the locker room, on the field, in these practices, by just seeing pictures. Now, I do want to point out that none of these notes are my own. Again, obviously, this is only open to the media. This is all the way in Boston. I'm obviously not able to be there, so this is just the general notes, what I've heard from reporters and whatnot. And then we'll get into some more specific notes, some more specific things that I read from Evan Lazar that I really want to touch upon. I do want to quickly note, too, that, guys, OTAs is very different than minicamp and training camp. As we get closer and closer to the start of the regular season is where you will see more contact. You'll see more, football-type practices. Right now, it's just more fast-paced run-throughs. This is anything crazy. The guys don't even have on pads. It is just a fast-paced walkthrough. Again, like I said, as time goes on, you'll see more. But right now, they're kind of just easing the guys into things. So now, while it is easy to put a bunch of stock into this, try at least for right now in the beginning of these reports to not put a whole ton of stock into things. When we start seeing matchups, notes, all that good stuff, that's when we put more stock into things. But as of right now, don't put too much into this. So to kick things off, absence were big. Absence were the biggest thing I would say to take away from this. Obviously, there's a lot to say about the absences because it's OTAs. OTAs are not mandatory. Training camp, that's mandatory. Minicamp, that is mandatory. So you might not see a lot of these guys, especially these veterans. Likely you will not see for the media open OTAs. Now, when minicamp and training camp comes along, you best believe that those guys will be there, and if they aren't, then that is something to touch upon. But usually, a lot of these veteran guys, they like to go, they like to train, they like to practice out on their own. So we can't exactly say, hey, is this because they just don't want to practice with the team? They're practicing on their own. Are they injured? Is there some type of drama going on? But to get into the absences, we have James White, Sony Michel, Ramondre Stevenson, the rookie, Brandon Bolden, Trey Nixon, who sounds like he's dealing with a knee/leg injury already. Jonnu Smith was absent, Isaiah Wynn, Trent Brown, Matt Judon, Kyle Van Noy, Chase Winovich, Lawrence Guy, Christian Barmore, Byron Cowart, Dante Hightower, Terez Hall, Harvey Longy, Stephon Gilmore, J.C. Jackson, Devin McCourty, Adrian Phillips, Miles Bryant, Nick Folk, Brandon King, and Leroy Reynolds, who I just actually got notified Leroy Reynolds was released. Now, some of my big takeaways on this, number one would probably be Jonnu Smith. Honestly, I hope that Jonnu Smith returns ASAP. Maybe he was there for some of the other OTAs and we didn't know, but I just haven't really seen nor heard much from Jonnu Smith, and I think that we were kind of expecting more from him. Let's remember that he was signed to a 4-year deal, where Hunter Henry was signed to a 3-year deal, and Jonnu Smith was also the first real free agent the Patriots signed. It was the first big guy that they signed before Hunter Henry and company. I know he wasn't there for the start of the organized team throwing sessions that Stidham had this offseason. I think that he went to 1 or 2 at some point, I think. But I know that he was also training with Trent Brown rather than like all the other guys at the throwing sessions. So it makes you wonder a little bit, especially because, look, you kind of have this battle of, hey, who's going to be your number one guy? Is it going to be Jonnu Smith? Is it going to be Hunter Henry? So there truly is going to be a fight for that number one guy. Both will for sure get on the field, but who's going to be your number one guy? Hunter Henry went to all of these throwing sessions. Hunter Henry is building these connections. Hunter Henry is already at these OTAs, so it's just making him look a lot better right now than a Jonnu Smith currently is. And then kind of my last big notes, you can kind of make little notes here and there about some of these guys, but you don't want to push something that may or may not be there, but it would be Stephon Gilmore and J.C. Jackson. Now, we heard that Stephon Gilmore likely could be holding out of practices, OTAs, minicamp, training camp, all of that until he gets that deal he wants done. Let's remember that about a year ago now, he was going to hold out unless the Patriots gave him more money. The Patriots took some of the money from his contract this year, moved it into his contract from last year, so from the 2021 contract to the 2020 contract. So is this kind of just the start of him holding out? And then J.C. Jackson, is he potentially going to hold out because he wants a long-term deal done also? Something to watch there. Now, another note here is that Damien Harris, Cameron McGrone, the linebacker, the rookie linebacker, and Joshua Bledsoe were all present, but they did not participate. So they were on the field, they were watching, but they were not getting in on any of the action like the other guys. In the end, it sucks, but in the end also, you rather than be there and be watching and taking that mental learning aspect than, for them to just not be there at all. They did also add that the rookie safety, Joshua Bledsoe, did have his arm in a sling. So looks like the Patriots' 2 late-round picks from just this past draft are already dealing with some injuries. Now, I believe that all of these guys are dealing with injuries, one case or another. I believe Damien Harris was dealing with injuries kind of throughout this season. I heard rumors that he may or may not have gotten an offseason surgery. I don't know if that's true or not, but I know he was dealing with some type of injury, so he's probably kind of on that injury spectrum. They're going to take it easy with him, so they're not throwing him in there right now, but he is still present and kind of watching and helping where he can. Cameron McGrone, obviously, might not even be playing this upcoming season, and then we just talked about Bledsoe. Next up here is that recently retired Patriots coach Ernie Adams was actually present, as was Matt Patricia. Now, Patricia was right beside Belichick for pretty much the entire day of OTAs. Now, we do know that Ernie Adams did retire, but from what I understand, it wasn't that he was fully retiring. It's just that he was taking a pretty big step back and taking a much smaller role. Overall, this was a very kind of lenient and just light session type of a day. The coaches were heavily, and I mean heavily, involved when it came to being involved with what the players were doing and coaching them. Obviously, that makes a lot of sense because there's a lot of new guys coming in. You got to teach a lot of these new guys. So more than ever, these coaches are probably going to be more involved than what we've seen. Like I mentioned earlier in this video, there were no competitive drills today. No really 11-on-11s or anything like that, and no pads. There was a lot of work today also in the return game. Doesn't surprise me at all. Something Belichick really, really stresses. Something he does, whether it's OTAs, minicamp, training camp, like you will hear that they're working a lot on the return game from start to finish. It was also noted that it was a very, very hot day there in Gillette. Also, something to add to is that, look, your punt returner is Gunnar Olszewski, but as a kickoff returner, you don't really have someone. So I think that's an area we'll be seeing a lot of, this offseason. We're going to move into the quarterbacks here. For 7-on-7s, Newton went 4 for 4. Mac Jones went 2 for 3, but would have went 3 for 3 if it wasn't for Christian Wilkerson, who had a drop on one of the Mac Jones passes. It wasn't Jones' fault at all. It was Christian Wilkerson's fault. Stidham went 2 for 3, and Hoyer went 2 for 2. Most of the completions were very short to intermediate stuffs, a lot to more so the running backs. There wasn't much running backs on the field today, like I mentioned. It was either injured or just weren't present. So really, today was the J.J. Taylor and Tyler Gaffney show. Now, the big thing we're going to be watching all season is what quarterback is going before the other. What's the order here? And from what we saw today, Cam Newton was always the first guy to lead team drills. And then Mac Jones, as usual, of course, was second behind him. They said that, they were very close to each other, but Cam Newton definitely still that leading guy. Then it went Stidham and Hoyer. They ended up kind of working on a different field than Mac Jones and Cam Newton. Not really sure what that's all about, but I'm sure we'll kind of figure that out more as the offseason goes on. They noted that Cam Newton looked like Cam Newton for the first day open to the media. You know, his throwing didn't look really any different than it has in the past. Nothing that stood out. Again, just day one, so we'll have to see if anything changes. But from what we saw today, that's it. Now, it was pointed out by a couple of different people that Mac Jones on the field looks like a smaller guy. I think that this is something that people weren't really expecting for some reason. I'm not sure why, but they did say it would be nice if he could bulk up a little bit. Just looks a little bit too small, but they said that, look, throwing-wise as a quarterback, he throws a really good ball. Honestly, I'm not too worried about it. Height, size, like that's nothing crazy in the NFL. Obviously, if you're Cam Newton and you have a big, large body, a large frame, a large height, that helps as a mobile quarterback. But look, if you're just a pure passing quarterback, you look at someone like a Kyler Murray, who even is also mobile, hasn't really, put any negative effects on him. They also added that the coaching staff seemed to really, really be testing Mac Jones out, like more than any other quarterback. They really wanted to see if he could make the right decisions in certain situations. How can he throw the ball? Can he throw it into tight windows? Stuff like that, which is very interesting to hear because, again, very, very early on into the process still. Their big thing with Mac Jones was to see, okay, is he able to make the right decisions? Is he able to, see the right reads, go through his progressions? And from what they said, Mac Jones checked off most of those boxes. As for wide receivers, Nelson Agholor is looking like the $11 million wide receiver that the Patriots paid for. He is easily their number one guy right now. Like I said, don't want to put too much stock into it, but he was easily the player of the day today. Looked really, really good. There was a point where he hauled an underthrown ball from Brian Hoyer, of course. That was over Jawan Williams, and that went for a 40-ish yard completion. Overall, looked very, very good today. They said that Agholor is noticeably more sudden in his routes than any of the other wide receivers that the Patriots have. He has another gear to him compared to the other wideouts. They also said that Kendrick Bourne looked very, very quick in his drills. And of course, Christian Wilkerson had a drop. Not looking good for him already. Obviously, a guy who's already pushing to make the roster. Chances are he probably won't. Not too much to say about the tight ends here. Obviously, Jonnu Smith was not present, but Hunter Henry had a good day today. He's a very true technician, from what I've been told, from what I've read. They say that that is the closest thing that they have had since Gronk. A true technician at that tight end position. And they also said, and I quote, that he is head and shoulders over any tight end that the Patriots have had since Gronkowski. He knows how to kind of detail what he's doing, detail his routes, detail his play, and knows the finer details on how to play tight end. And then lastly, before we get into some notes from Evan Lazar and kind of his standouts that I really wanted to talk about, they said that for the safeties, a lot of these guys were moving all around, getting works in just many different positions. This does not surprise me at all. I've been telling you guys on my live streams and my videos that the secondary is good for 2021. We'll have to see past 2021 how it goes, but they just have a lot of guys who we don't know where they're going to play. Miles Bryant, Jawan Williams, Jalen Mills, Kyle Duggar, like just so many guys that could play in so many different areas. We have to see where they're actually going to play. Are they going to play in the box? Are they going to play strong safety, free safety? Are they going to play more corner? Like we won't know until we see probably more of a training camp, maybe a little bit in mini camp. Now, as for some things that Evan Lazar said, it's a little bit different from some of the things that I read, which is why I wanted to, kind of just note some of the things that he was pointing out. He said overall, Mac Jones did make good decisions today. He did look good. And overall, he's as advertised. What you were told you're getting from Mac Jones is exactly what he showed today. Very, very accurate, makes good decisions, can read a defense. He said that during 7-on-7s, the defense threw a coverage disguise at Mac Jones that led to a check down. The rookie's best throws during 7-on-7s came over the middle with a little pump fake to get the zone dropping linebacker to bite, but Christian Wilkerson dropped that pass. He did note that there weren't many downfield throws for Mac Jones, but it was clear that the coaches did want to make him read through different coverages and that he was able to handle it. Now, as for Nelson Agholor, who at this current time is the Patriots' #1 wide receiver, that was before OTAs even started, he said that Nelson Agholor has good explosiveness off the line, off the line and on his vertical stems, and that he's able to really break down quickly at the top of his route. There was one point where he actually got a rouse out of his teammates during a yards after the catch drill when he made a nifty move to avoid an air quote tackle, because obviously they're not actually doing like contact tackling today. And he just said that overall, Nelson Agholor looked the part of what the Patriots are paying for, like I recently said. As for Hunter Henry, it seems like Evan Lazar had nothing but praise for him from what we have seen so far. Like I said also, I'm impressed with what I've seen from Hunter Henry. He seemed to really connect with Jared Stidham, which obviously probably won't mean too much, but it's always good to build those connections. They're obviously two very, very good friends since he's gotten to Boston. But really just hearing that Hunter Henry is the closest thing the Patriots have had to Gronk since Gronk. And the big thing about Gronk was that body, was that strong hands, being able to catch in traffic, but more specifically, the ability to be a very precise route runner. And when you have a big guy like a Gronk, like a Hunter Henry, who can run precise routes, that can be deadly. And one of the best things I'm hearing about Hunter Henry is his movement skills and his ability to be a route runner on different levels. From what we were told, the kind of the list of tight ends, for lack of better words, went Hunter Henry, followed by Devin Asiasi, Matt Lacoste, and then the new tight end that they brought along. Lazar even said, to put things into perspective, the Patriots tight end coach actually used Hunter Henry's routes to teach the other tight ends the Patriots have on how to essentially be better, how to have better technique. He also said that on one play, Hunter Henry ran a stick nod where he sold a route by flashing his eye and his hips to the quarterback, then broke up the seam, much to the delight of Patriots offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels and their tight end coach. So it seems that as of right now, Josh McDaniels, the other Patriots coaching staff, they're just very happy offensively to finally have weapons and being able to just do many different things because they have skill sets and they're not asking guys to do stuff that they're just not able to do because they're not great NFL players. Now, Evan Lazar also made another really interesting point. He said that wide receiver Kendrick Bourne, one of my favorite offseason additions, is looking like a younger, more better version of a Mohamed Sanu. Let's remember, the Patriots traded for Sanu back in the 2019 season, a second-round pick to the Falcons. He ended up being a complete bust. Lazar is saying that it looks like Kendrick Bourne is going to be what the Patriots thought they were going to be getting from a Mohamed Sanu. He said that Bourne isn't going to wow you with his speed or explosiveness off the line, but he's built really, really well, and he is smooth through his breaks. He has a really good mental grasp of the game and feels like the type of receiver that the team hoped that they were going to get from Sanu, like I recently just said. It's also, interestingly enough, worth mentioning, nothing, crazy or anything like that, but just a fun little tidbit that him and Mac Jones already have a great connection, already great friends, and already have their own unique handshake. He said, look, you're not going to get the explosiveness that you're going to get from an Agholor. Of course, I don't think anyone should be expecting that. But Bourne knows how to run routes at an NFL level, no doubt. That's what the Patriots need. And my last thing to point out here is J.J. Taylor. Now, J.J. Taylor was the Patriots' lead running back today. Of course, I don't know how much that is truly to say because, like I mentioned, it was really just him and Gaffney, Damian Harris on the sidelines, Ramondre Stevenson not there, Sony not there, Bolden not there. Really, nobody was there except for those two running backs, which is why they got a big workload. But that was good to hear for J.J. Taylor because he's getting more looks, and he was praised by coaches for his blitz pickups. And I think that is a big, big thing to note because you're looking at it and you're like, okay, what are two things the Patriots really, really look for in their running backs? Being able to pick up a blitz, being able to block, and also being able to take care of the ball. These are things that J.J. Taylor is proving he is able to do. He said on several occasions, J.J. Taylor was the one who was making the right pickups, including making a nice decision on a blitzing linebacker. He said that he doesn't just have the physical aspect of picking it up, but more importantly, he has the mental aspect of knowing what to do when it comes to picking up blitzes, which is very, very important. Again, along with we know that he has very good ball security. We already know that the Patriots coaching staff loved J.J. Taylor this past season, but let's be honest with ourselves. He was not ready. He wasn't ready to take that starting role, that thrusting role, getting more snaps than he was in 2020. With an offseason, with them being able to really work with him, he has more of an ability to now get that. And J.J. Taylor has an ability to be a receiving back. To what level, we don't know just yet, but it sounds like it would probably go James White, then J.J. Taylor from what it is sounding like. And if J.J. Taylor can be a good running back like we've already seen from the few snaps that he got in 2020 against actual NFL competition, he's able to be well against blitz pickup and can be a pass-catching running back. This could potentially be your future running back. This could potentially be your James White replacement if all goes well. Before we end this one off, though, I want to talk about the sponsors of this videos and my boys over at betonline.ag. Now, BetOnline has the fastest and the easiest ways to bet on all of your sports action. Football might be over, but NBA, college basketball, and the NHL are still a full swing. BetOnline even covers awards, TV shows, and reality TV with real-time updated odds and props on almost anything you can imagine. BetOnline also has you covered for all of the news, scores, and odds, and it is the best way to place your bets, and it's completely free to sign up. All you got to do is head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Don't sit on the sidelines anymore. Get in with the action, and don't forget to use that promo code CLNS50 to receive a 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. But guys, these were notes from the first media open practice for OTAs. I'll be covering everything else, minicamp, training camp, all of that great stuff, along with all of the other news that drops. So make sure you subscribe and turn on the bell notification so you don't miss anything and get notified as soon as I post a video. Like always, I appreciate each and every single one of you for watching. It means the world to me. Make sure to hit that like button. Like I said earlier, it helps me out tremendously. And share the video with some friends or family. That also helps a lot out tremendously. But I appreciate all of you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Go Pats.